Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, 5 Reasons Dealers Switch F&I and Reinsurance Providers, presented by Allstate Dealer Services. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Kate Spadafora, Associate Publisher for Bobbitt's Dealer Group, home to Auto Dealer Today magazine. And joining us today is Peter Chavitz, National Training Director for Allstate Dealer Services. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Kate. As Kate said, my name's Peter Chaffetz, and I am the National Training Director for Allstate Dealer Services. I've spent nearly 40 years in this business, both on the provider side and on the retail side. And we work through our agent network with dealers primarily to better understand their needs and then offer solutions designed to help them achieve their goals.
Thanks, Peter. So we presume dealers are talking with Allstate Dealer Services because they're considering changing providers. So today we're here to share some of the common concerns and pain points dealers have raised. In uncertain economic times, every dollar does count, and dealers lose time and money when trusted partners fall short. Some F&I and reinsurance providers are failing to maintain service standards and meeting their dealers' expectations. So when dealers seek new providers, they often share complaints about their old ones. Peter, can you tell us about some of the common pain points dealers experience?
Absolutely. Some of the common dealer complaints and concerns can be broken down into a few but important categories. They include lack of dealership support, and that can take many forms, getting answers to questions, having issues resolved or problems solved, or in some cases, even getting someone to pick up the phone or to respond to an email in a timely manner. Another area would be issues with the claims adjudication process. Here, dealers are looking for speed, ease, accuracy, the proper acumen of the people handling the phone calls. And when these things break down, then dealers can be concerned. A third area, again, very important, would be inferior performance. And that's going to be both on the F&I performance side, as well as performance within the reinsurance structures. And then the last one is ineffective leadership. And ineffective leadership is a pretty broad source of complaints, but with more recently, it's going to include things like organizational and ownership changes that seem to come out of the blue.
All that being said, in a competitive P&A market, dealers do have options.
Yeah, and a strong provider or partner is going to fight to earn and retain the dealer's business, keeping in mind that the business relationship has to be mutually beneficial.
So that's why we're here today. And in this webinar, we will review 5 common reasons dealers switch providers.
So if any of this stuff sounds familiar, it might be time for you to perhaps look at some other options.
So let's jump right into reason number 1, right dealer, wrong program. Dealers may be steered into the provider's favored program, and changing structures can be cumbersome. Improper selection affects profitability, tax-advantaged income, and investment income.
So depending on what the dealer is trying to accomplish, the reinsurance program and the profit participation structures, they're going to be critical components of the dealer's overall strategy. Now, as I just mentioned, determining what the dealer is trying to accomplish and then putting them in a structure that enables them to accomplish those goals, that's the key. Great salespeople tend to put their best foot forward, and that's natural. The problems arise when a provider shoehorns the client into their preferred structure, even if it's not the best fit for what the dealer's trying to accomplish. And sadly, by the time the dealer realizes that they're not getting what they need from that structure and then decide to make a change of direction, well, that process of change can be very disruptive. It can be complicated. It can be time consuming and in the end, very costly. And then one final thought. When a dealer is directed into a program that's not best for their particular needs or goals, and then decide to switch, as Kate mentioned, profits, potential tax advantages, and income or the investment income, they may all suffer.
And now moving on to the solution. You can target proper selection, goal setting, continual analysis, and constant innovation.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah. Selecting the right partner and the structure that works best for you, they are the keys. When looking for a partner, some of the things that you may want to keep in mind include how long have they been around? How well are they known nationally? How trusted are they by the end user of the products, the customer? And are they marketing a new, bright, shiny object that might sound too good to be true? Or are they a long tenured, financially stable, fiscally conservative organization that you know is going to be there in the long run? You see, there's no denying that some specialty providers have made their mark in this industry. But I think it's important to note that most of the larger, more established providers are still in a position to offer a full range of structure options from retros to CFCs. And they have the financial strength and stability to handle the tough times and excel in the good times. And with respect to choosing the right structure, I'd suggest it's important to understand that your structure, any structure, is simply a means to an end and not the end in and of itself. It's the way that you as the dealer get to achieve your goals. So that's why it's very important to have a deep understanding of what you want along with your partner in the short term, the midterm, and the long term before any plans are decided or before your partner or provider pitches you any plan. One thing that you might want to ask yourself is, when I'm engaged with my current provider, what is the questions to statements or comments ratio? In other words, how hard is my current provider trying to understand my needs, my wishes, and my concerns, as opposed to pushing their company line or telling me what to think or what to do? And then once there's a clear understanding and agreement on the goals, then the structure options can be selected, the companies can get set up, everything can be put in place, but it shouldn't end there. The best providers will continually analyze performance and then adjust to make sure you stay on track with your profit and income goals.
Now on to reason number 2, trouble at the top, which could include factors such as private equity and venture capital, mergers and acquisitions, as well as cost cutting and outsourcing.
Wow. There is no doubt that in the P&A landscape, there's been an experience of major change over the last decade, with more and more outside investors pouring into the industry. That really is a testament to the strength and the power of the industry. But let's be clear. When an outside investor comes into the picture or on the scene, they do it for one reason. They're looking for a maximum return on their investment and their investors' money. And they need to do this in the shortest time possible. And in many cases, the investment groups, they don't possess the industry knowledge to grow the business. So they resort to more traditional steps to increase profits. Those can be things like increasing admin and other fees, could be outsourcing or even cutting staff, and then just a move to lower the overall expense structure for the organization. In short, it's leaning up the organization to make it more attractive to the next buyer. And to be honest, that's a great strategy for the investors and the few people at the top. But for everybody else, not so much. Another trend out there is providers buying other providers to grow their bottom lines. Again, it's a sound strategy until after several acquisitions, you find yourself with multiple duplicate products, different systems that don't communicate with each other, and then a number of talented people that simply become redundant virtually overnight. Again, from the dealer's standpoint, these changes may just cause uncertainty, inefficiency, and potentially unnecessary drama.
Now let's explore the solutions, which can be broken down into 3 different factors: stability, credibility, and reliability.
Exactly. So you may want to ask yourself, how likely is it that your current provider is going to be acquired by a VC, venture capitalist firm, or will go on a buying spree to grow? And then ask yourself, how much do you value stability, reliability, and credibility in your relationships, keeping in mind that change can be quite disruptive? In this incredibly competitive P&A market, the best partners out there distinguish themselves by the level of support that they deliver to both the dealers and the agents through being stable, credible, and reliable.
On to reason number 3, price hikes, which can encompass either fees versus profits or even unexpected changes.
Yeah, using a low price, a loss leader has been a common marketing practice for over 100 years, and it's no different today in our industry. I'm reminded of the old adage, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. The promise of lower fees, lower costs for products, unusually high underwriting profits or investment income, they all sound great as a prospect. But when things change down the road as a customer, dealers may experience increased fees and costs and lower return on investments and underwriting profits. That's when you find out that the deal that sounded too good to be true actually was too good to be true. And unexpected price hikes are particularly painful when they lack context, insight, or forewarning, especially if it was all part of the master marketing plan all along.
And for that solution, you want to make sure you price right, keep talking, and always focus on the future.
The solution is that the top providers price appropriately rather than engaging in a race to the bottom as far as price. Often, the cheapest product isn't the least expensive. Actuaries do their job. They know what the risk profiles look like. And if somebody is dramatically less expensive in the marketplace than everybody else, you have to question what it is that they're trying to accomplish. Something else to keep in mind is providers have to be open and transparent in the tough conversations that need to take place with the dealers and the agents as prices and costs go up. No company is immune to the impacts of inflation. But in the big picture, it's all about having a strong fiscal management process and then making good long-term decisions. The key to success for the dealers, the agents, and the providers is to remain focused on long-term profitability and viability over short-term gains.
Now on to reason number 4, an empty toolkit. One size does not fit all, and it never will. And most of the time, dealers need resources, and they need those resources quickly.
Again, spot on. All too often, providers expect or convince the dealers to adapt to a one-size-fits-all solution, even when it's not in the best interest of a strong long-term relationship. Pushing that bright, shiny object just because it's expedient doesn't necessarily mean it's the best approach. Secondly, dealers need access to the information and the resources that they need to make the best decisions and to be able to stay on top of the changes and the potential threats to their overall profitability. And finally, being able to act as a true consultant rather than a vendor provides the dealer with the comfort in knowing that they're in a mutually beneficial relationship, which is the key to long-lasting relationships.
Now, onto the solution, which I'd like to break down into 3 parts. First, customization. Second, having resources such as pitch kits, fact sheets, checklists and process guides, consumer and dealer marketing materials, product and training videos, and brand guidelines and logos. And third, always go that extra mile. Profit improvement opportunities, new solutions and partnerships, and reporting and analysis.
The primary goal of any provider should be to apply their expertise to help the dealer meet or exceed their goals, and to do it within the dealer's existing culture and business model. As Kate just mentioned, strong providers exceed expectations by offering instant, easy access to the critical resources she just mentioned. For example, having access to pitch kits and fact sheets, checklists and process guides keep everybody informed and on the same page. Providing professional point of sale and dealer marketing material just enhances the overall experience in the store for the customers. Online product knowledge and sales process training videos, these are table stakes in today's environment. The ability to provide online access, in-classroom access, and in-store access to the people that need the information and training, as we'll talk about in a few minutes, is another key performance factor. Access to online performance coaching. It's one thing to sit and watch videos and try to improve your performance. It's something completely different to have access to a live person to go through objections, go through process, and things of that nature. And also the brand guidelines and logo files to keep all of the co-branding efforts compliant. The best providers exceed expectations by providing the services that go beyond some of the traditional scope of F&I and reinsurance. Some of those things might include the ability to identify and manage profit improvement opportunities with the sales department, the service department, in addition to maximizing performance in the F&I department. Another one is to seek out market-driven solutions and to structure partnerships to enhance the overall value add for the relationship. So what does that mean? Simply, it means the ability to leverage their knowledge and expertise to seek out some potentially non-traditional partnerships that can be offered to dealer partners. And these partnerships may bring compliance expertise, second chance product sales, or customer referral programs, just to mention a few. And finally, to track, segment, analyze, and then be able to report out performance data to maximize productivity. Watch for lead indicators of potential trends or issues, and provide constant communication on the overall state of the dealer's business.
And we've made it to reason number 5, which is a training deficit defined by less training and lower production.
Obviously, this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart, as I've been involved in training agents and F&I managers and dealerships for over 30 years. And quite frankly, what I've seen is that there are a bunch of very talented F&I managers in stores today across the country that are leaving a lot of money on the table because of a lack of consistent training and coaching. Without ongoing training, production suffers, and along with that, quite probably CSI. Recently, too many providers are taking a hands-off approach to training. And when providers fail to invest in ensuring that new product launches and effective, compliant F&I sales processes are utilized, production is going to suffer and could possibly open up the dealer to unwanted exposure.
Thanks, Peter. So let's explore that last solution where we can reinvest in training, focus on value, and get support.
Okay, so the best providers have done the simple math that every hour spent on product and process training leads to increased penetrations and income. See, the keys to F&I product sales have never really changed. The products only have value if the customers think that they have value. So in other words, the products need to be viewed, or I would suggest should be viewed, as solutions to potential problems that the customer may face during their ownership experience. Once the customer is aware of these potential problems and how costly they may be over their term of ownership, then the F&I managers can present a menu of options and let the customer decide how much risk they're willing to keep themselves versus how much they'd rather transfer to somebody else. The dealers might want to look to partners who provide the support to them at every stage of the process and are flexible enough to adapt the training to the needs of the store, the group, or the individual. And one last thought here. I mentioned earlier that any reinsurance program or particular structure that a dealer selects is simply a means to an end and not the end in of itself. So I'd like to take that thought one step further and tie it into this topic on training. I'd ask you to review or take a look at your reinsurance program as an engine that helps you achieve your goals, whatever they may be, generate wealth, buy new stores, whatever it happens to be. So the reinsurance structure is the engine, and it's the activities of the F&I department that provide the fuel to that engine. The more fuel, the higher quality fuel that gets delivered to that engine, the better that engine's going to perform, so that when the going gets tough, smart dealers, they leverage training and take advantage of it.
And now for our conclusions. Dealers need to make sure they shop around, put prospective partners to the test, and definitely set expectations.
So with the dollars at stake, dealers probably aren't that afraid to shop around if they believe that somebody new can help them improve their position. Combined with the fact that F&I and the reinsurance landscape has shifted over the past few years, today may be the perfect time to evaluate your current relationships, take a look at the performance and the production numbers, and recognize that there may be other options out there. And just understand that we're all open to the opportunity to earn your business, learn about your business, and present our solutions to your particular problems, and then leave it up to you to make the right decision, but then constantly go on proving that you made the good decision by meeting or exceeding your expectations.
Thanks so much, Peter. So it looks like we do have time for some questions. To any of our viewers, if you didn't yet ask any questions you may have come up with during the webinar, down at the bottom of your screen, you should see a Q&A box, and you can go ahead and input those right now. But Peter, let's jump into the questions we have received so far.
Okay.
You mentioned fees versus performance. How do dealers know whether fees are reasonable, too high, or too low?
Well, a couple of thoughts on that one. First one, nothing is either good or bad except by comparison. So you've got to be informed. You have to know what is available out in the marketplace. Um, the other thing I'd just like to mention is I remember when I was on the retail side and people knew that I was in the car business. If they bought a car, they would always call me up, or they would call me up and ask me, "Hey, did I get a good deal on this?" And my answer was always the same. My answer was, "Do you think you got a good deal?" The deal's only as good as you think it is. So how does that relate to this question? Everything should be transparent. You should be able to identify every dollar that goes someplace else from the time a product is sold and the time it hits your reinsurance company. Once you understand all of the numbers involved, then you'll be able to make the right decision as to what's appropriate for you and your store.
Thanks, Peter. So, what would you say is an example of innovation in the F&I space?
Well, obviously technology is always evolving, but I can point to one thing in particular, and that is having the ability to capture missed sales outside of a BDC or an internal process. Um, Here at Allstate Dealer Services, we've partnered with an organization that will solicit and actively market your missed opportunities. They have a tremendously large processing facility, and they have really honed this into a science. So while the idea of marketing to customers who didn't purchase the first time might not be new, the degree to which this organization has made the initial investments to be able to contact the customers, again, within the scope of the rules and regulations, but to solicit and market these people and send them back to you, the dealer. I mean, these are innovations in the marketplace that really separate one organization from the next.
Thanks, Peter. And this may sound like a simple question, but we all know it's not. How many providers do you think a dealer should meet with before making a decision?
That is not a simple question at all. That depends. Um, you want to talk, dealers have networks. You've got your 20 groups. You've got a whole bunch of opportunities to find out who other dealers that you respect are doing business with. Um, too much information is probably going to slow down the process. Uh, Maybe narrow it down to 2 or 3 providers, let them explain how they approach the business, and then make your decisions from there. But to bring in many more, and again, this is just my opinion based on the experiences I've had, too much information, you're going to lose sight of the big picture and probably not gain anything by having more than 2 or 3.
And once you've narrowed it down to 2 or 3, at what point should a dealer advisors, such as agents, attorneys, CPAs, etc., be involved in these discussions?
Depending on the individuals and the degree to which they're engaged with your business, it could be from the initial meetings, or it could be a little bit later on through the process. Typically there are several steps to a dealer making a decision like this. First one is picking the potential providers. The next one is to get to meet with them. And all the providers are going to try to find out what's important to the dealer. And then it's when you get into different structure options, that's when the CFOs, the CPAs, and then more towards the agreements, the attorneys come into play. So it's probably 2, 3 steps down the line in the process that a traditional or a typical dealer would go through to make a decision like this.
Thanks, Peter. So many dealers already have existing solutions and are often reluctant to explore alternatives unless they're feeling significant pain with their current providers. In light of this, how would you recommend structuring the initial conversation to capture their interest and make them more open to considering our solution?
Wow. Um, it kind of goes back to one of the points I made during the course of the presentation. It's about listening. Active listening is a tremendous skill that's kind of gone by the wayside. You cannot solve a problem if you don't know what the root cause of the problem is, or even have agreement that that problem exists. So, how do you get someone to be open? You've got to engage them in a conversation and find out where they stand. What are they happy with? What are they unhappy with? In a perfect world, what would this relationship look like? But again, as we talked about during the presentation, there's got to be a certain amount of realism and rational thought that gets applied to it, because if you if you've done business for a while, you know that the costs of just about everything have gone up. And we just have to take that into consideration in all the conversations going forward.
Thanks, Peter. And before we move on to this last question, I just wanted to give all our viewers one more chance to drop your own questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So, what numbers or information should a dealer have at hand when shopping providers?
Well, you want to have a copy of your reinsurance program. You want to have the session statement. And then you want to have your performance and production numbers, knowing what the historic performance in the store has been, what the trends are. So we're talking about PVR, product penetrations, profit per product, just a good snapshot of what's going on inside the store. To go to the next level, it'd be helpful to understand what the pay plans are in the store. Not that they need to necessarily be changed, but there's a fundamental belief that pay plans are job descriptions. So to make sure, if once we understand what the deal is trying to accomplish, we just want to ensure that that pay plan is supporting the goals, so they don't work at odds. And then you need to understand the people. The volumes in the stores, the performance number in F&I, the pay plans. I think that's a good starting point to engage in these conversations.
Let's see if we had any more. Oh, we did get one last question in. So what kind of marketing and training materials should a provider offer to ensure the success of the F&I team?
And, product knowledge, process training, and some degree of compliance exposure, or ensuring that the training materials are compliant themselves. Product knowledge is always going to be key to make sure that the customers know exactly what they're getting themselves into, and that the F&I managers are presenting the right information regarding the products. The process training, the how to start the entire process from the initial meet and greet through the paperwork delivery, that's training that needs to be provided, again, because this supports what the dealer is trying to accomplish. And if you think back to what we were talking about during the presentation, the providers need to work within the context of what the dealer culture is and how they operate. So there's got to be some flexibility there. And then the last thing, the compliance thing, everything that is provided from a training standpoint should really focus on achieving 3 goals. And those 3 goals are, they have to be legal, they need to be moral, and they need to be ethical. And if you can check those 3 boxes, I think everybody in this industry wins.
For our next question, once you've captured their interest, what strategies would you suggest for moving from being a secondary option to becoming the dealer's primary solution? How can we position ourselves to replace their current provider and take the lead?
What a great question. Persistence, and persistence. I'm going to say it again. You need to kill the dealer with persistence. There's in prospecting and marketing, there's a rule called the law of familiarity. And that just says that a customer is likely to do, or more likely to do business with you, the more familiar they are with you. So if you're in a secondary position and you simply go in and check for forms and just go on coffee calls, that's not the familiarity you're going to be looking for. So it's about going above and beyond outside of the scope of that product or products you may have in the store and bring value to the dealer in ways that he or she may not have been expecting. The more you do that, while it may not yield results early on, the more you do that, the more persistent you are with that approach, over time, the door will open. And for some of us or some of you, all you need is that foothold to move it to the next level.
Thanks, Peter. It looks like that's all the questions we received today. So to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. If you're an Allstate dealer, agent, or partner, your business is always appreciated. And if not, but are considering a switch, please feel free to reach out to Peter or the Allstate team at any time to learn more. Peter, any final thoughts you'd like to share with us today?
Other than I appreciate the opportunity and just want to say thank you and thank everybody who joined us today.
All right. Well, thank you so much for all the time. And if any questions do come in after the webinar, the Allstate team will reach out to you directly. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.